Watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes along with RBM and Corner, Emily Carver, Benjamin Butterworth and Lizzie Cundy. Tonight on the show, TikTok, the Chinese virus we need to cancel.
No, we shouldn't cancel the Notting Hill Carnival.
Why eco-lovey activist hypocrites are so annoying.
And bear with me, why woke policing saves lives.
and is Sadiq Khan the new Dick Turpin?
It's 8 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Welcome to the Saturday 5. No, that's not the number of cabinet posts that Grant Shapps has held in the last month, but the number of GB News regulars here to discuss the big topics of the week. Football's transfer window shut yesterday, but no deals done here, unfortunately, so I'm still stuck alongside Albie, Benjamin and Emily. Plus, and back by popular demand, it's the broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, the most beautiful woman in showbiz.
It is indeed. Now, the premise of the show is simple. It doesn't change. Each of us gets around 60 seconds to outline our argument of the week. Any chosen topic, then we all pile in and it gets uglier than this weekend's train timetables. And, of course, as always, we want to know your views as well. Please do get in touch by emailing gbviews@gbnews.com. Let us know what you think, you agree, you disagree, whatever it is, let us know. But before all of that, it is your Saturday Night News with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. I'm Aaron Armstrong in the GB newsroom. The condition of some public buildings, including hospitals, is being described as jaw-dropping as concerns grow over their risk of collapse. The chair of the Commons Public Accounts Committee is warning the issue of aerated concrete in schools is just the tip of the iceberg. Writing in The Times, Dame Meg Hillier says eye-watering sums of money are being spent on mitigating the risks. Labour's demanding an urgent audit, while the Lib Dems have labelled it a national emergency, which warrants an immediate Cobra meeting. There's been a huge surge in small boats crossing the Channel. GB News can reveal around 600 asylum seekers made it to UK waters today. The number of migrants intercepted so far this year now stands at more than 20,000. Rail passengers have been struggling with delays and cancellations as a result of further strike action by the RMT. Up to 20,000 union members at 14 operators have walked out, forcing services to start later and finish earlier, and there will be a knock-on effect tomorrow morning. Members of the train drivers union ASLEF, who were on the picket lines yesterday, have refused to work overtime today. RMT General Secretary Mick Lynch told GB News he's hopeful for next week's negotiations.
We go into those talks with an attitude and a disposition to try and get an agreement, but there are some serious issues, as most people know now. We don't want to be on strike. We'd much rather be earning a living and running the service for the people who need to use it. So hopefully, if we can get a different mindset next week, we can get some progress.
Policing shouldn't be used as a political football, a warning for the Home Secretary after she accused officers of partisanship on controversial issues. The Police Federation of England and Wales says the government keep changing the goalposts, wanting officers to be more involved while simultaneously acting like robots. Suella Braverman has commissioned a review into activism and impartiality in the force. Labour says that demonstrates her political obsession with the issue, and the Lib Dems have accused her of using the police as a weapon in her culture war. Bricks have been salvaged from a pub at the centre of an arson investigation in the West Midlands. Organisers of Save the Crooked House, which was destroyed by fire last month, held a ceremony earlier, and they've stored the bricks in locked containers, hoping they can be used to rebuild the pub. 2 men have been released on conditional bail after being arrested on suspicion of arson with intent to endanger life. And the King and Queen have attended the Braemar Gathering Highland Games in Aberdeenshire. The event was held a short distance from the Royals' summer retreat at Balmoral. Charles wore a new kilt in the King Charles III tartan that was specially created to mark the coronation. This is GB News. I'll be back with more in just under an hour's time. And now it's over to the Saturday Five.
Thanks, Aaron. Yes, it is Saturday night. You're with the Saturday Five. I'm Emily Carver, and we have quite the show lined up for you tonight. So why don't we crack on with tonight's first debate?
Yes, to kick things off, it's Lizzie Cundy, and she's going to tell us about the modern-day highwayman of Britain. Who could it be? Take it away, Lizzie.
Well, yes, it's Sadiq Khan, the new Dick Turpin. If those that don't know their history, Dick Turpin was hanged back in 1739 for robbing on the highways. Well, for me, Sadiq Khan is doing the same here and now. But actually, slightly worse. Dick Turpin had flair, charisma. Khan has the personality of a goldfish and the listening skills of Van Gogh's left ear. Yes, the man is full of himself. He won't listen to anyone else, despite his own findings in the ULEZ, knowing this hurts the disabled and the poorest of people. Why is he doing this? Why is he expanding ULEZ? Well, I'll tell you why. Because it's all about the cash. This is a money grab, and it is awful that he's doing this to his own people, the people of London, and he's not listening to what they want. We have the Blade Runners that are actually taking away the cameras. I am anti any vandalism, but people don't know what to do. There's no way out of this, and it's their only way forward. ULEZ needs to be stopped, and now it's expanded to places like Kent, Enfield, and where I live, near Surrey. Have you been there? Khan, have you actually been there? There's big, fresh fields, loads of plenty of fresh air. And if you really were worried about air pollution, you would totally ban these cars, but you're not. You're charging £12.50 to back out of your own yard. For me, this is a disgrace. It has to stop. It's nothing about racism. It's about a scam. And I say, you're a liar, because all your statistics on fertility, on fatal deaths has been a total lie. And what upsets me is that people are being brainwashed by you, and this has to stop. And for me, I'm saying we need to rebel against this, rebel against Khan. He needs to go, and please let the new Mayor of London come quickly.
Well,
yeah, didn't hold back there. I mean, that racism point comes from something that Benjamin picked up on, which Wes Streeting tweeted out. I think we've got that tweet. He tweeted out earlier today. Was it today, Benjamin, earlier today?
Yeah,
or was
the Shadow Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, you can see it there, cited a report that raises the racism that Sadiq Khan faces. Now, look...
Well, it's not a report, it's an article by Adam Bienkoff, who works for Byline Times.
Yeah, report as in, you know, what one reports. Now, look, I don't think that all of the aggression about the low emissions zone, the ULEZ, is all about racism. Of course, that's not the case. But there is certainly a significant element of racist abuse against Sadiq Khan. We've seen it from the start. The bloke that ran against him in the first place, Zach Goldsmith, made all sorts of dangerous jibes about how he wanted to steal your jewellery to members of the Indian community. Michael Gove suggested that he wanted to introduce Sharia law. Do you not recognise the racist aggression in the abuse?
There isn't. People are absolutely against this ULEZ and the expansion of it. It is a con. Benjamin, if you can't see this, because it's hurting those that I thought you'd stick up for, hurting the poorest, hurting the disabled, hurting the single mothers, hurting the normal man that's trying to get to work. It's stopping their livelihoods and their freedoms. And I'm disgusted you're sticking up for this.
Well, the truth is, Lizzie, you didn't give a damn when it was implemented in central London.
But that's
you didn't give a hang on. You didn't give a damn when it was in central London. You didn't give a damn when Boris Johnson said it should be extended. You didn't give a damn when the Tory government said that it should be introduced.
Benjamin,
this is just party political posturing.
In London, we've got the underground. Have you any idea the air pollution that causes? Why isn't he looking at the underground, at the airports? Why is it always a war on the motorists? Tell me that.
Well, how long do you spend on an underground platform compared to outside. I think the truth is that you would rather those poor people die or have asthma or suffer serious consequences.
What a ridiculous...
That is disgusting. Can I tell you, Benjamin, my best friend has cystic fibrosis, which is a disease for the lungs and digestive system. She can barely breathe. She said the air is never better at the moment in London. And let me tell you,
with these rules, because we introduced these
new rules, her care can't get to her. They're being charged £12.50. They can't even get to her. Like, she can't get the same treatment as many people watching today. It's true.
That's not true,
there
because
are
people with
disabled and
disabilities are
carers
exempt.
aren't getting the help they should get because they're getting charged by the Mayor of London that you so adore.
Benjamin,
I don't want to dominate this, but I just want to fact check that people
policy.
with disabilities, registered disabilities, are exempt.
You want to look at the facts. Look at what he said. 4,000 deaths. That was a lie. He lied.
Well, that is one thing, though, Benjamin. He talks about following the science, and he has actually accused anyone of being anti-ULEZ. Did you hear this one? COVID deniers. That's what he said it was like. I don't know how that's true, because at the same time, he's saying, follow the science. His deputy mayor tried to change the science. It didn't agree with them to that extent.
Are you asking me?
I am. Defend the man.
But it's easy to defend. Look, first of all, you know, people that pretended COVID wasn't real are the same people in many cases that are pretending this isn't real. Because they can't see it, they want to pretend that it's not there.
Lizzie, do you deny that COVID's real?
Said that the biggest health detriment that there is in the country at the moment comes from poor air quality. You might want to live in Mongolia, but I don't.
I live on the outskirts. I have to drive. You're obviously a non-driver, so you're thinking about yourself.
Thinking about the environment for the elderly and the poor.
Well, why don't you ask him to look at the underground? You won't get more air pollution. Has he looked into that with London Underground? Answer me that.
Look, I think, Benjamin, you're really missing the point here. Everyone wants clear air. You're not going to ask a politician or a person in London that doesn't want clean air. But it's about how you get to having clean air. And I'm sorry, the evidence shows that ULEZ is going to have a very negligible impact on clean air, as Lizzie said in her monologue. If this air quality was so bad and Sadiq Khan was so concerned about these cars polluting the environment, he would ban them altogether. But he's not.
Yeah, exactly, which makes it clear as day that it is a cash grab because he's got a massive financial black hole when it comes to TfL to contend with, and he likes to spend huge amounts of money on virtue signalling nonsense, in my view, like his commission on diversity in the public realm, £500,000 of our money. Thank you very much for that, looking into statues and whether they're diverse enough. I mean, what absolute nonsense. But the thing is that if this was democratic, if this was what all Londoners and in the outskirts wanted, then fine. It's what we voted for, it's what we get. It was not in his manifesto. There were vague ideas of how he wants to improve air pollution, but there was nothing about this extension. And he's had public consultations, which he's simply ignored the result of. When the majority said, actually, we don't want this expansion, he just ploughed on with it. He's totally undemocratic in that view, and I can't wait for the next election, and I hope Londoners see sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think we need to move on, don't you?
I think we do, yes.
Because up next, Darren is going to tell us why he thinks TikTok should tock off. Yes, it's grime time.
You've got to be careful there, Emily. Now, China hasn't been just busy knocking up viruses. It's also making a concerted effort to inject its social media app, TikTok, into our kids' minds. Forget traditional drugs. TikTok has become the ultimate digital narcotic. China has its own version of TikTok. It's called Douyin, and the contrast couldn't be starker. Douyin users in China, they get a 40-minute daily cap if they're underage, no doubt to save them from turning into bleary-eyed screen zombies. And the content is a tribute to the greatness of the Communist Party, filled with model citizens doing remarkable things and educational videos. Well, meanwhile, you turn on your kids' version of TikTok and you'll be in for a surprise. Beamed to our Western shores, it's a different animal altogether. You've got kids gyrating to hypersexualised dance routines. You've got celebrating dangerous levels of thinness to the point of glorifying anorexia. And let's not even get started on the trans stimulus. So-called trans kids are hawked like the latest iPhone model. But let's be absolutely real. Most kids are more likely to grow out of these feelings than embrace a lifetime of hormone treatments and physical and emotional scars. As the trans YouTuber Blair White says, a transgender kid is as nonsensical as a vegan cat. Someone else is pulling the strings. So I ask the question, is China deliberately sowing chaos in our societies? Given the glaring disparity between Douyin, its TikTok, and our TikTok, it's hard not to think so. If you ask me, it's about time we kick this digital menace to the curb. It's not just an app, it's a weapon aimed at our culture. And I never like calling for bans, but TikTok is a line in the sand we must be willing to draw. Now, Emily, you're going to have kids one day. Are you worried? Are you worried? With any luck, God willing.
Every show I get told to crack on.
I want kids as well, by the way.
I always get told to crack on.
Are you going to be worried about them using TikTok?
Yeah, I am, because I do use TikTok and I'm becoming increasingly addicted to it, actually, because it is just that instant entertainment and you just swipe and you end up spending, you know, half an hour, 2 hours just going through the motions on the app. And what I have seen on there is actually quite shocking. So obviously it highlights the extremes in our society and presents them as normal. And that is very worrying when it comes to extreme opinions, but also when it comes to extreme lifestyle choices, when it comes to, yes, the extremes, essentially. But also there are a lot of what appear to be young age girls, definitely less than 18 years old, in not a lot of clothing, doing quite sexualised dances, but also this, I don't know what it's called, ASMR, where they're sort of making these sexual sounds online. And there are lots of men who comment and give them little treats and stickers and hearts and all this lot.
Rewarded.
And it's basically rewarding young girls and boys as well to be as sexual as possible because they'll get more likes and more followers. I mean, this is the same on other social media platforms, but I do think TikTok is probably worse. And if China are doing this on purpose, I can see why, because it's certainly dividing people.
So, Lizzie, do you look at the young girls that we just had on screen there for radio listeners, as young as they're not, some of them not even in their teens yet? Do you look at those young girls and feel sad for them?
Well, I do feel sad, and as you said, it's very, very, you know, it's addictive. And I've got 2 young boys, and they actually told me, Mum, don't go on TikTok, because probably embarrassed what I'd post on there, to be honest. But what worries me that you've mentioned are the girls that look like they've got eating disorders and showing off about it. I'm someone that suffered with an eating disorder when I was growing up, and this is really disturbing, and I think it can trigger an eating disorder. And it really worries me, which this is a slippery slope we're going down.
And do you view it as glorification of eating disorders?
Yes, I do feel it's like a glorification, and it's a slippery slope where girls are going to want to do it themselves, and before you know it, you know, they are really, really poorly, and this is disgusting what I'm viewing. I'm really worried about it, and there should be something done.
So, Albie, before we get to Benjamin Bedwetter, I just want to know what your view is on TikTok. In my view, Albie, and I don't know if you agree with this, in my view, anyone that says things like a woman can't have a penis, things like that, I know so many people who've been booted off the platform for saying things like that. Why is it, Albie, that only one side of the argument, to the extreme, as Emily said, is allowed to present itself on TikTok?
I don't know. They're probably trying to appeal to a certain demographic of society who they think is going to make them the most revenue. That's normally what businesses will do. But I don't agree that TikTok should be banned, because actually the content on TikTok, from what I have seen, is not that different to Reels on Instagram or videos on YouTube or the content on Twitter. And I think in a liberal democratic society, if you're going to say we need to ban TikTok, then why don't we ban all social media? But that strikes me as a very Chinese Communist Party thing to do, actually. And I think we need to actually put more responsibility with parents who let their children use social media at too younger ages, rather than banning it for everyone.
Yeah, I think there needs to be some kind of awareness campaign, because I don't think there's any point of banning it, because something else will just come up in its place.
And then we ban that.
Well, I mean, but they could just keep
I'll go on a banning spree.
Lots of people are now making a living on TikTok, and they're showing lovely things like their recipes or just nice vlogs about their home life and lovely things. They're actually nice to watch, and people are showing their music. There are musicians on there who wouldn't have been recognised otherwise. So it is fantastic in that way. It's giving people, a showcase for their talents. But there is a lot of sordid stuff on there, and it is pretty dodgy, and I've seen it firsthand.
So, Benjamin, turning to you, you're not a TikTok user, am I correct?
I'm not a TikTok, but I made the mistake of typing my name into TikTok. There are 32 million views, not all flattering. But it's extraordinary, really, because I have to agree with Emily in the sense that when I did download the app, and that's when I saw these sort of response videos to everything I say, and it was so addictive. I mean, way more addictive than any other app. And that is one of the reasons why I didn't want to use it. I don't think ministers should be allowed to use it, which is something the US brought in a wee while back and that we've started to introduce here. But look, other than that, I think the idea, you know, you've outdone yourself in trying to blame transgender people for the encroachment of Chinese communism on the Western world. I mean, that's just ludicrous, right? You know, just because you see trans people on there doesn't mean you'll make you trans. I learned about the Second World War at school, but I've still not invaded Poland. I think young people are capable of seeing
There's a lot of
content
stuff
without being
about very
persuaded.
young kids, though, that where trans and gender dysphoria is, it does look like it's being celebrated, if not encouraged,
Is it any
which is
different on
slightly
Instagram?
worrying.
But, you know,
It is.
I think it is,
TikTok is much more... You're kind of obsessed with it, easily get obsessed with it, and I just think you've got to be very, very careful.
Well, let us know at home if you've looked at TikTok or your children or grandchildren are on it. Let us know if they're addicted as well. But still to come tonight, Albie's going to tell us why we shouldn't cancel Notting Hill Carnival. Benjamin's going to argue for woke policing, and I'll be talking all about the wonderfully hypocritical Emma Thompson. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nana, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Cheers very much for your emails coming in faster than we can all read them. Belinda says, no, Sadiq Khan is not a Dick Turpin. He's a Dick dictator. But Howard says, shouldn't we be praising Sadiq Khan? Unlike most politicians, he seems to take the long-term view, even if it makes him unpopular. He gets my vote, and I wish there were more like him.
Gosh,
Lizzie Cundy's furious. Now it's time, though, for our next debate. Up next, it's Albie, and Albie's going to tell us why Notting Hill Carnival shouldn't be cancelled. Take it away, Albie.
Every year, the Notting Hill Carnival shows us that there's something rotten at the heart of British society. 2 million revellers, over 2 million revellers, attend the event in Notting Hill over 2 days, and this year we saw 308 arrests, about 8 stabbings and 75 assaults against our hard-working police officers. This level of crime is totally unacceptable, and those young black men who are perpetrators of this crime, these crimes against society, are enemies to the black community. You do more harm to British race relations than any white person ever has, and you should be ashamed of yourselves. But we must also put the crime that we see at Notting Hill Carnival into context. 2 million people attend the carnival over 2 days. 308 arrests, 8 stabbings and 75 assaults to police officers out of a population of 2 million over 2 days is not that dissimilar to the levels of crime that we see in cities like Liverpool, which saw 7 stabbings over the space of 48 hours, or indeed festivals like Reading and Leeds, which similarly saw tens of arrests per 100,000 people over the space of the Reading and Leeds festival weekends. It is clear to me that some of the critics of Carnival are doing so from a place of racism, and I very much look forward to your comments on Twitter in response to this monologue. But those who say that the level of crime and public disorder at Carnival isn't a problem are wrong too. These levels of crime are simply unsustainable. They're also unsustainable in London, which has become a hotbed of crime under London Mayor Sadiq Khan, and it's time to vote him out. But I will say that as a black British person and part of the black British community, if we want people to stop criticising Carnival, if we want people to stop criticising black people, we might consider not committing the crime in the first place and being less tolerant of crime within our own community. The vast majority of revellers at the Notting Hill Carnival last weekend were law-abiding citizens celebrating the last weekend of summer. And it's a shame that a small but significant minority of people ruined that. Quite a nuanced argument, I think, there, Lizzie. You don't strike me as a Notting Hill Carnival-going gal. Maybe I'm wrong. But what do you think about the crime that we see at Carnival versus the number of people that attend the Carnival?
Well, it was Notting Hill carnage to me, and actually I have many close friends that actually live in Notting Hill, and they are sick of it. Obviously, you don't live there, Albie, but if you were to, you wouldn't like it. It's awful. The whole front of their garden is urinated on. There's rubbish. There's all sorts going outside their front door with no respect, no care, and it's time it stopped. This is a neighbourhood, and the people that live actually in Notting Hill don't actually want it, because not everyone in the carnival, there's many having a great time, but for having 8 stabbings, for me, 308 arrests, there were sexual offences, drugs, all sorts going on. No, Albie, it's wrong and it's not fair on the neighbourhood. And you're obviously, if you lived there, you probably wouldn't like it either.
Can you move to Notting Hill and be upset about the Notting Hill Carnival? I mean, this carnival's been going on since 1996. Isn't it a bit unreasonable to move to Notting Hill after the carnival has started and then start complaining about it, Darren?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you wouldn't know the extent to which it does completely change things, and that, you know, that people deciding to have a wee in your garden maybe wouldn't be expected. And worse. Yes, and worse. I won't go into all of that.
Defecation.
If you're having your tea, I do apologise. But what I would say is that watching the scenes, you know, the scenes that we've just seen for radio listeners on screen there look lovely. Everyone's getting on very canny and it's going very well. But the scenes that I've seen where you've got people popping parts of their body into police officers, you've got people climbing bridges and gyrating themselves across them, I think it's grotesque.
In front of children.
I have been to the Carnival several times. I think we can get a graphic up of a graph that the Times did of actually the level of crime at Carnival versus the level of crime at other events in the United Kingdom, whether or not that is Glastonbury, whether or not that's
different crimes,
Reading Festival, whether or not that is the men's Euro final in 2020. Emily, do you think that the Carnival is reported fairly by the media when actually the level of crime is comparable to other big popular events in the UK, yet all of the footage that we see is mostly of people defecating or having arguments with people brandishing knives, when the majority of the 2 million revellers are just there having a good time?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because I have seen some disgustingly racist tweets, comments out there about the Carnival and picking snapshots of, you know, a couple of people behaving extremely badly or disgustingly, really, in my view, and then, you know, saying that that's representative of the entire Carnival. I think Lizzie's also right that if you lived in that area and you had to box up your house and you were scared that you might be robbed or graffitied or whatever, you might have a different view. I think that is certainly true. And I also think it's not really... It's such a concentrated area that the fact that there were 8 stabbings just in that area is quite extreme. You don't get the same number of stabbings, and they can be fatal. It's very different from, you know, someone being caught giving a bit of weed to their friend or, you know, whatever else might happen at another festival. That's not to say that we should cancel Notting Hill. I think maybe there's an argument to make it a ticketed event and make sure people are going through security more often, because someone wielding a machete, he looked about 16 years old. I don't know how old he was, but it's pretty shocking. And that ruins it for everyone.
And Albie, you can't compare Glastonbury to a neighbourhood.
I want to hear your point of view.
Very briefly.
I mean, look, I think a lot of this is judgmental. I see lots of tweets about Pride, and they'll say, oh, there is this appallingly scantily clad person. Well, I've never seen them at Pride. I suspect Notting Hill is a lot more family-friendly than choice tweets.
You've never seen a scantily clad person at Pride? Please.
Well,
I've seen you there in your knickers.
I'm fully covered.
I've seen you there in your budgie smugglers.
Also, though, I don't recall seeing Benjamin with a machete running about, but still ahead, the Carver Palaver will be calling out Emma Thompson on her eco-warrior hypocrisy. First, though, it's the weather.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. I'm Jonathan Vautry, here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Hope you've managed to enjoy Saturday. It will be ending on a relatively fine note for many of us. Some late sunny spells to be had and generally a lot of dry, clear weather into the night as well. We'll allow for some mist and fog patches to develop into the early hours of Sunday morning, though, most extensively for central eastern areas of England. Further towards the north, we've got a band of rain pushing into northern Scotland. Could be heavy at times for the Isle of Lewis and the Northern Isles, but most of us will see our temperatures holding up around 13-14 degrees Celsius as we start off Sunday morning. So a fairly mild start. Will take a little bit of time for that mist and fog to clear, but eventually it will clear its way off, and many of us will see a good amount of sunshine throughout the day, feeling really pleasantly warm in that highs of 26 degrees Celsius possible across southeastern areas of England. Further to the north, though, that rain will be lingering across the Highlands up into the Northern Isles, so being a much fresher here, and gales around coastal areas for a time as well. High pressure will be hanging on into the start of the new working week, still though with that lingering front across the far north, and also the isobars squeezing together across the west country. So Monday, generally a bit of a breezier day for parts of Devon, Cornwall, definitely some coastal gusts, but elsewhere winds will be relatively light inland, and there'll be a decent amount of sunshine throughout much of the day, again once that early mist and fog does clear its way off. We hold on to some of that sunshine throughout the rest of the week, perhaps a little bit more cloud developing more towards Thursday, but that's also where our temperatures will be climbing the highest. Bye-bye.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Speaking of boilers, Benjamin's bugbear's going to be boiling, and he'll be telling us why woke policing is supposedly saving lives. Could you believe it? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening.
from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the live desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real, robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton, for 2 hours packed full of unfiltered opinions, unique takes and fiery debates. I guarantee you blockbuster guests and exclusive reporting with no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I think there is a culture of collusion, quite frankly.
And no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard.
We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think. Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. I hope you're having a very nice evening at home. As always, thank you very much for sending in your emails. We've got actually quite a distressing but important one from a viewer who's asked us not to mention their name. They say, my son has had a fake TikTok account set up about him by young girls at school. The struggle to have this taken down by TikTok is so hard. It's distressing for him and not fair. It's bullying and there is nothing you can do about it. Yes, digital bullying in schools is absolutely terrible. I hope it gets taken down. On a very much lighter note, Sarah says it took more than half an hour before Benjamin started demanding to see more scantily clad people. This is a Saturday Five record. Well, there you go. That says a lot about Benjamin. But it's time for our next debate.
Absolutely, Benjamin, the tart here, calling for scantily clad. And he's going to tell us why he thinks that actually police attacks for being woke are wrong. How so, Benjamin? Take it away.
Well, thank you. I'm back by unpopular demand after 2 weeks of record ratings, no doubt. And I'm here to disagree with Suella Braverman and the Met Police Chief. She has said that police should be investigated across the country for getting involved in politically partial campaigns like LGBT rights or Black Lives Matter. Well, Suella Braverman, I think you're wrong again. She makes these claims at a time when there are 115,000 complaints about serving police officers in the last year's figures. 1,000 officers are being investigated for sexually inappropriate behaviour to the extremes we saw with people like Wayne Couzens. Now, these things don't happen by accident. They happen because the police has a level of institutional racism, misogyny and homophobia. We saw it in one example with the serial killer Stephen Port, who murdered 4 gay men and raped 11. An investigation found that institutional failings happened in that case because people made judgments about those gay victims' lives that meant they didn't investigate it properly. So that's why I say that police getting involved with communities, whether it's local fetes and bake sales or whether it's LGBT prides or the black community, that saves lives because then people trust the police.
I think that's...
I want Braverman to change her mind.
Sorry, I think that's a bit of a stretch, Benjamin. Sorry for interrupting you there. That was very rude. I thought you'd finished. How is wearing a pride lapel on your police officer outfit, or taking the knee at a Black Lives Matter protest, or skateboarding across Waterloo Bridge when there's a blockade going on by Extinction Rebellion going to stop institutional racism or sexual offenders becoming police officers? I mean, please.
Because it represents a culture. You know what? You think about those rainbow
culture.
cars
Totally
or taking
phony.
the knee, and you see those as conspicuous. But to these communities, what is conspicuous is when you have police officers found to be racist or homophobic, as in the case
You
of
really
Charing
think
Cross
taking
police
the
station.
knee has raised trust of police in the black
Yes,
community?
I do, because they have to illustrate that they are making an effort to change
Nonsense.
their culture. And what do those other officers see? They see that it's not acceptable to hold these prejudices when doing their job.
Nonsense.
And the point
it's a
you make
cover,
about Port
if anything.
there, about the fact that it wasn't investigated properly, that may well be the case, Benjamin. But what has driving around in rainbow cars, like you're some kind of Coco the Clown, done to actually combat that? Why? They were doing all of this before Port. Why has it not changed anything? It's down to the fact that they're not doing their jobs properly because they're too busy fannying about with these kinds of virtue signalling nonsense.
Macarena. I mean, what is that about, Benjamin? Surely police should be policing. It's got out of hand.
But this is policing, because those things happen because
the knee?
there is a culture of ignorance and lack of interest in these communities. And when they hold events and when they make the effort to reach out, you understand better.
There's the Macarena there
Police
going
are
on with the police.
supposed to be policing, Benjamin,
Yes.
and this is a joke.
They
aren't there.
I'm going to ask Albie in a second, but they're meant to be impartial, not meant to be ignorant.
It's
and
not
they're
a
the latter.
cabaret show.
That emboldens criminality. Come on, they look like a soft touch.
Right.
It doesn't help
Quite
the community.
frankly, what is a joke, in my opinion, is that the Home Secretary is taking time out of what I imagine is a very busy diary to write a letter about how the police need to stop indulging in woke policing. That is not the priority of a Home Secretary who is interested in cutting immigration, interested in reforming the police, interested in cutting crime. That is the work of someone who's trying to shore up their base to try and lead the Conservative Party if we lose the next general election. I actually wish that both the police and the Home Secretary would simply focus on the day job rather than indulging in these stupid cultural issues.
It wasn't just her who came out against woke policing, was it? It's been a discussion that many constables have been saying, lots of commissioners of the police. Many people have been talking about how you balance, woke policing, whatever you want to call it.
But what does that do?
This is much deeper than that.
What does that do to cut crime?
Hang on. This is
Nothing.
much deeper than this, because let's look at cases of people tweeting fairly innocuous things and having the police officers turn up at their door, arrest them, and
How
potentially
often does
charge
that
them
happen?
for
And
hate crime.
It happens too
many
often.
times. I've got many
There's just
examples
been one
here
councillor,
for you.
a Tory councillor.
Jennifer Swain, 2022, feminist campaigner for posting a sticker on lampposts saying men do not belong in women's prisons. Oh, you have a Tory councillor who was arrested for an alleged hate crime by Northamptonshire police for sharing a video criticising the arrest of a Christian street preacher. This stuff is happening, and it does undermine trust.
And you don't think police have institutional problems with minorities?
Of course I
and
do.
with
Of
women?
course I do, but I think this is window dressing.
They're wasting their time on people's feelings,
Okay.
feeling anxious instead of
Feeling anxious
instead
should be
of
a police
catching
matter.
burglars and not
That's
having
how people get away
rainbow
with
flags
police.
on their
Well,
police
we'll
cars.
have to leave it there because no doubt someone's going to report one of us for a non-crime hate incident. But the Carver Palaver is next, and Emily will be riding the wave of Emma Thompson's environmental hypocrisy. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians her task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media.
We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Emails are still flooding in. Thank you very much. We were discussing the Notting Hill Carnival earlier, and Charles says, I'm from Trinidad. The violence and chaos in the Trinidad Carnival have resulted in a number of people leaving the country during that time. Notting Hill Carnival seems to be trying to emulate that. Not something I would recommend. Gosh, well, there you go. Now, time is pressing, so let's get to our final debate.
Yes, last but not least, it's Emily, and she's going to tell us why it's not all plain sailing for Dame Emma Thompson. It's time for the Carver Palaver.
We're looking forward to this. Actress, activist and lover of luxury travel, Emma Thompson, reminds me of someone. That someone is our good friend, Benjamin Butterworth. Sure, they're both beautiful, erudite and admired by billions. Or perhaps a few hundred in Benjamin's case. But they've also got a few other things in common, don't they? Namely, complaining that we're facing global boiling while they jet-set around the globe with not a care in the world for their own personal carbon footprint. Do as I say, not as I do, says Benjamin and Emma. This week, everyone's favourite lovey, Emma Thompson, was pictured aboard a £200 million super yacht in Venice, hobnobbing with the rich and famous, of course, the boat owned by billionaire Fox News co-founder, no less. And, by the way, as I've seen some try to argue, just because the super yacht has sails does not mean it doesn't also have an enormous engine fuelled by diesel. Of course, Miss Thompson was pictured enjoying every socialist's favourite beverage, a nice cold glass or two of champagne, only the best for Emma. Now, normally I would say, good on you. You've had a spectacularly successful career. Go out, sail the seas and enjoy the fruits of your labour. I'd say that, were it not for the fact that only a couple of years ago she racked up thousands of air miles flying all the way from LA to London to help Extinction Rebellion bring central London to a standstill. That time she was aboard a rather less impressive vehicle, though still suitably attention-grabbing in hot pink for the occasion. Well, Miss Thompson, I say to you this. Do you really believe the world is going to end due to carbon emissions? Because if I believed that, I'd maybe have given the gas-guzzling super yacht a miss this summer, just to be safe. But then again, you wouldn't be caught dead spending the summer in this rainy corner of sort of Europe, a cake-filled, misery-laden grey old island, would you?
Yes, and we must be clear. We must be clear, Emily, that she did actually say that. She said that during Brexit.
She said that about Blighty because we Brexited, or perhaps during the referendum. I can't remember exactly. You know, Emma Thompson, I do like her. She is quite shameless, though. The way, Benjamin, I did pick on you there, so I'll let you have the first retort. She is a bit shameless, doing that whole thing with Extinction Rebellion and then being pictured on a super yacht, you know, lapping it all up.
I mean, I don't know if she was travelling through the seas on the super yacht or just popped aboard for the champagne, which I think any of us would do. But look, the truth is that you could endlessly pick on individual examples of people that care about climate change having to get in a car or go on a plane for necessary journeys. The problem is with the structure of our society. I'm not saying the yacht is necessarily
She needed that champagne or she was going to die.
Exactly.
But I think the problem is with the system we live in, and that's what needs to be changed.
Oh, no,
You can't blame people for living in the system.
The system.
That's
This is what they always say.
hypocritical.
Oh, you know, if the yacht didn't exist, if we didn't live in this capitalist system where super yachts exist and Fox News billionaires existed, then I would never have been on the yacht. So really, it's the system's fault.
Also, I think we're focusing a lot on the yacht here, but not on the fact that she was on a yacht owned by the co-owner of Fox. Like, how is Emma Thompson meant to be this lefty-lovey, but she's hanging around with the people that own
Because she's a
Fox?
champagne-swigging socialist.
ridiculous.
It's hypocritical.
I also-
Benjamin, like yourself, a hypocrite.
I also hang out with some terrible people. Here I am tonight. You know, you have to forgive Emma Thompson that one.
Yes, but I don't make out that I'm a hypocrite. I love fossil fuels. I think they keep us all warm and lovely. And actually, people in this winter are going to struggle a lot. And I think that's down to people like you. So that's what gets me angry.
Yeah.
It's the fact that you are arguing for net zero. Emily, you're not doing that, but Benjamin certainly is. And that comes at a time when people are feeling it like they never have before.
Well,
not for generations.
I tell you what, if we had more wind power and solar power, then we wouldn't have been at the whim of Russia.
We've got enough
in the
coming
last
from your
18
gob.
months.
The cheapest energy sources, Darren, are wind and solar. These are facts.
So how do you store that energy? How do you store that energy?
If we had more wind and solar, we'd be less reliant.
Where are we going to store
on
that
the
energy?
gas market.
That's
There are
actually
many
not true.
different.
But
There are many different options.
This
for
just shows
storage.
that you don't really care. You pretend to care. You want net zero. You don't. Because if I had a private
it's
jet
not an
there
option.
going to Dubai, you'd happily get on it and have a glass of champagne. I know you would, Benjamin. And it's the same with Emma.
Well-
They're hypocritical. And you're there to look like the do-gooders, but you don't really mean it. You're fake and you're phony.
You're not. The
Oh, me out.
It's true.
Well, Jerry Springer's dead, but Lizzie Cunliffer's alive and well. You know, the truth is that we live in a democracy, and at the last general election, people voted for net zero because it was in 3 major party manifestos, and I assume
Yeah, they
the Green
couldn't choose
Party
anyone
as
else,
well.
could they?
Right, and they supported it. It's already in law, and you often talk about China putting more emissions out, which is, of course, true. But they also have a net zero target just 10 years after Britain.
Oh, please.
Right? And China doesn't fail at what it sets out to do. So why do you think that we should be failing to save the planet when even China's...
This is the same China that turns around and says it isn't persecuting the Uyghur Muslims. You believe them. You believe that they're going to go greener than Kermit the Sodding Frog.
I don't believe them, but I do believe that a country like China understands the necessity and the economic advantage of things like net
No one
zero.
disagrees with that. We're talking about the hypocrisy.
It's hypocritical. Be true to yourself, Benjamin, because you're being fake.
I heard Narinder Kaur the other day talking about Emma Thompson, and she was defending her. She said, "Oh, the boat has sails. It doesn't." I mean, if you've ever watched an episode of Below Deck, which I'm sure all of us may have, great show, great reality TV show, you know the sails are basically there for, you know, a moment of high wind. It's very much powered by diesel, but this is the way people will defend the hypocrisy.
And look at all our, you know, the officials going to G7 summits, you know, save the planet, all on private jets.
Yeah.
This is the same thing.
I think we'll have some kind of...
I find it problematic because you're all royalists, right? You all claim to care about the Commonwealth. Well, many of the countries that are already going underwater and suffering acute consequences of climate change for 20 years now, if not longer, are Commonwealth countries, countries in parts of the Caribbean that are literally going underwater because of rising sea levels.
So why is Emma going on a super
You've got the fact that, you know, the North Pole is melting. It's causing serious issues.
Benjamin, if you genuinely believed it was as bad as what you're saying, you wouldn't be flitting off around the world, would you? You would stay at home on your bum.
Exactly. Well, you would get on my private jet if I had one, Benjamin. You would.
Well, you've been a footballer's wife. You probably do have one, but we can't all live in that world.
Well, sorry, though, but you jump on it happily, and that's what's so hypocritical.
I've never even flown first class. I'm not saying I'm, you know, Robin Hood or the man of the people, but I haven't, right? And I wouldn't really want to be honest. You know, it's not an option for me. And I walk a lot of places, I cycle, and I think those are the things we can do. But at the end of the day, these are institutional problems, not
individual. But you flew to Nepal earlier on this year as well.
Where I reported about climate change in the Himalayas.
About climate change, the countries that have got the most to gain from fossil fuels are in fact the poorest countries in the world, so they can get the electricity that we have and up their life standards to ours.
I think we'll end up living in some kind of dystopian world where it's only the eco-activists and do-gooders that have credit points to be able to travel around the world using fossil fuels. It's absolutely hysterical, but it does make a lot of people truly very fed up indeed.
The hypocrisy, Emily, is as rich as their bank accounts.
There you go.
Anyway, we're going to have to end the show, unfortunately. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that.
Great actress.
Great actress.
But enough about me.
Yes. Well, anyway, cheers very much to our wonderful guest for tonight, Lizzie Cundy. Thank you very much, Lizzie. Now, speaking of whom, Joanna emailed in and says, great to see Lizzie back on, talks a lot of sense, but always time for a laugh as well. Absolutely. Now, Benjamin coming back, someone's written in and said, oh, no, sorry, there isn't any. Oh, dear. Well, next up, it's the brilliant Mark Dolan. Cheers very much for watching. It's a Benjamin-free zone, you'll be delighted to know. I'll see yous again next week.
Aww.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. I'm Jonathan Vaughtry, here with your GB News weather forecast provided by the Met Office. Hope you've managed to enjoy Saturday. It will be ending on a relatively fine note for many of us. Some late sunny spells to be had and generally a lot of dry, clear weather into the night as well. We'll allow for some mist and fog patches to develop into the early hours of Sunday morning, though, most extensively for central eastern areas of England. Further towards the north, we've got band of rain pushing into northern Scotland. Could be heavy at times for the Isle of Lewis and the Northern Isles, but most of us will see our temperatures holding up around 13-14 degrees Celsius as we start off Sunday morning. So a fairly mild start. Will take a little bit of time for that mist and fog to clear, but eventually it will clear its way off, and many of us will see a good amount of sunshine throughout the day, feeling really pleasantly warm in that highs of 26 degrees Celsius possible across southeastern areas of England. Further to the north, though, that rain will be lingering across the Highlands up into the Northern Isles, so being a much fresher here, and gales around coastal areas for a time as well. High pressure will be hanging on into the start of the new working week, still though with that lingering front across the far north, and also the isobars squeezing